Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing stories in modern coin collecting, a journey into the world of tiny details, unexpected mistakes, minting anomalies, and rare opportunities that have turned an ordinary-looking coin into an unbelievable treasure. And today we're exploring the incredible tale of the 2017 P1 cent coin, a coin that many people overlook because it seems so common, yet under very specific circumstances some collectors speculate it could reach a jaw-dropping value of $13 million due to a combination of extraordinary errors, impossible to replicate conditions, and numismatic fascination that transforms a simple penny into a legendary artifact. And as we welcome all of you to this deep and engaging exploration, we invite you to imagine holding a coin so seemingly insignificant in your hand, yet realizing that every scratch, every misalignment, every unexpected imprint holds a secret that could change its destiny. And the 2017 P-cent is especially unique because 2017 was the first year in United States mint history that a cent from Philadelphia carried a mint mark P, a decision made to commemorate the mint's 225th anniversary. And although that detail alone does not make a coin worth millions, it sets the stage for one of the most interesting situations in modern numismatic history where mistakes surrounding the mint mark, die preparation, quality control lapses, and transitional inconsistencies create an environment where rare errors become more meaningful, and this is where collectors begin to speculate about the possibility of a perfect storm, an ultra-rare error occurring on a historically unusual coin. And throughout this story, we're going to explore the hypothetical errors that would be required to create a coin worthy of such an enormous valuation, including dramatic double strikes, off-metal strikes where the coin is accidentally made on a blank mint for a different denominations such as a dime or a foreign planchet. Extreme die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies smash together with no planchet between them, leaving ghostly mirrored impressions across the surfaces. Broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads out unnaturally yet retains full detail. And even mule errors where the obverse of the cent is paired with the reverse of an entirely different denomination. Something so rare that examples in other years have sold for hundreds of thousands or more. And the 2017 P-cent has the added twist of being produced during a time of extremely high mint output, meaning billions of coins were made, yet the sheer volume increases the chances of rare mistakes slipping through unnoticed. And when collectors discuss a coin reaching $13 million, they're imagining an error so dramatic, so visually stunning, so clearly impossible under normal minting procedures that it becomes not just a coin, but a historical artifact, a one-of-a-kind piece that defines an era of production technology. And part of the allure is that the Philadelphia Mint's introduction of the P mint mark led to confusion in the early stages of production, where some dies were prepared incorrectly, some were handled by personnel who were adjusting to the change. And the possibility of early experimentation or miscommunication could hypothetically produce a rare class of errors. And among the most valuable would be something like a double denomination strike, where a previously struck coin from another denomination accidentally receives a new strike from cent dies, creating a bizarre hybrid coin with overlapping designs, shapes, and text, something collectors absolutely crave because such pieces visually tell the story of a minting mistake that theoretically should never happen. And another possibility is a rare die cap error, where a coin gets stuck to a die and strikes blank after blank, forming a mushroom-shaped coin that eventually becomes a three-dimensional sculpture of metal and design layers. And if such a die cap occurred specifically on the historic 2017 P-cent during the early experimental stages after the mint mark change, it would become an instant treasure. And then we have the possibility of misaligned dies, rotated dies, improper annealing where the planchet is overheated or underheated leading to unusual coloration or texture, clipped planchets where the metal strip is mistakenly cut leaving curved or straight segments missing, and off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, with extreme off-centers being the rarest and most valuable. And when all of these potential errors collide with the significance of the year 2017 and the introduction of the P mint mark, collectors imagine hypothetical miracle coins. And it is these miracle coins that become the stuff of legend because if a single example were found exhibiting multiple dramatic errors simultaneously, such as being struck on the wrong planchet, off-center by more than 50%, double struck on a second denomination, with die rotation and clash marks visible, it would become uniquely valuable, a coin that cannot be replicated by accident or intention, And that uniqueness is what drives speculative valuations into the tens of millions, because collectors do not pay for the metal. They pay for the story, the impossibility, the anomaly, the one-in-a-billion accident that escaped. The mint's detection systems traveled through circulation or storage and somehow ended up in the hands of a sharp-eyed individual. And the idea that a simple 2017 P-cent could reach $13 million is not rooted in typical marketplace behavior, but in the speculative realm of ultra-rarity, the same realm where unique coins like the 1933 double eagle, the 1794 flowing hair dollar, and the 1943 copper cent achieved astonishing prices due to their stories. And if a 2017 P-cent with a previously unknown and impossibly dramatic error surfaced, especially one tied to the historical first-year mintmark event, it would immediately become the most important modern-era U.S. error coin, and collectors love firsts. First year of issue, first appearance of a mintmark, first discovery of a particular error type, and the 2017 P-cent is primed for that kind of fascination. And as we dive deeper into the possibilities, imagine a coin that not only has a wrong planchet strike, but also shows evidence of a rare strike-through error where a foreign object such as a fragment of cloth, wire, metal shaving, or even a piece of another coin became trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, embedding a permanent impression into the coin, creating a bizarre texture or pattern that instantly becomes a fingerprint of rarity. And some collectors speculate about coins that show mintmark anomalies. Perhaps a die was prepared incorrectly and received a mintmark punch of an older style, or the mintmark was doubled, tripled, or distorted due to mechanical failure, creating a variety so visually distinctive that it would rewrite numismatic reference books. And if such a variety emerged on a historically important 2017 P-cent, it could transform its value beyond anything previously seen in modern pennies, especially if it were authenticated as genuine by professional grading services. And the moment such a coin is graded as a unique mint-era discovery, it enters the realm of museum-worthy artifacts, the kind of item that private collectors battle over, auction houses promote worldwide, and historians reference for decades. The next 1984 1-cent USA coin today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, mind-bending, and conversation-stealing discoveries in the world of modern coin collecting. An extraordinary journey into the story of the 1984 1-cent piece that has shocked collectors, stunned experts, and fascinated treasure hunters as rumors and reports began circulating about a single coin with such rare, complicated, overlapping, and spectacular minting blunders that its value skyrocketed in private collecting circles to an unbelievable $13 million, pushing it from the humble status of a tiny copper-coated zinc coin into a jaw-dropping superstar of the numismatic world. And today we're going to dig deeply into the story, the possible combinations of mint errors, the anomalies, the theories, and the wild coincidences that could result in a 1984 cent reaching unimaginable worth and attracting the obsession of collectors who chase ultra-rare mistakes created by the unpredictable chaos of mint machinery. And as you stay with us through this entire deep dive exploration, you'll discover how a seemingly ordinary coin can transform into a piece of art, a piece of history, and a piece of treasure all at once. So sit back and enjoy this marathon explanation of how the 1984 1-cent became a sensational multi-million-dollar rarity, with a saga full of mystery, speculation, technological mishaps, and the tiny mechanical imperfections that sometimes lead to colossal value increases in the world of numismatics, all while imagining how easily a coin like this could slip past the eyes of mint inspectors before eventually landing in someone's hand, wallet, or collection, and only years later being recognized as a monumental financial prize that transforms lives, inspires debates, and adds another legendary chapter to the long timeline of United States coinage stories that collectors cherish, analyze, and retell over and over again. Now, when we talk about the 1984 1-cent piece climbing to a value of $13 million, the first question that comes to mind is, of course, what kind of errors could justify such an astronomical price? Because ordinary errors, even popular ones, simply cannot carry such a weight in the market. So the coin in question must have possessed layers upon layers of striking mistakes, die deterioration, misalignments, planchet anomalies, doubling varieties, material issues, and minting circumstances so stacked that together they formed a truly once-in-a-lifetime specimen, something beyond any normal classification of mint errors. And that's why today we're going to imagine and explain the full spectrum of mind-blowing possibilities that experts discuss when analyzing such a coin. Because when a cent from a common year suddenly reaches museum-level prestige worth millions, the story is never simple. The mistakes are never ordinary, and the cause is never just one small flaw, but a powerful combination of overlapping rare characteristics that create a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. Let's begin by exploring one of the most dramatic and valuable kinds of errors imaginable in a 1984 cent, which would be an extreme double die on the obverse side where Abraham Lincoln's profile, lettering, and date show unmistakable, dramatic, visually stunning doubling created when the die received an improper alignment during its hubbing process. And collectors go crazy for doubled dies because they directly reflect a mistake at the heart of the die creation process, meaning every coin struck from that die would share the same precise doubling pattern, essentially reproducing a rare design error onto thousands or millions of coins. But for the 1984 cent that supposedly reached a $13 million price tag, the doubling would have needed to go far beyond typical doubled dies, displaying deep separation in lettering like Liberty or I in God We Trust, or even the numerals in the date, showing a strongly offset second impression that is impossible to ignore and extremely desirable to collectors. And the fascination grows if the doubling is unusual, such as multidirectional, rotational, or dramatically stretched, creating a surreal effect on the obverse appearance. But of course, a doubled die alone, even an extraordinary one, is rarely enough to push a coin into the eight-figure territory. So the coin would need to showcase additional extraordinary traits, such as a remarkable reverse side error, perhaps involving a rare die clash so intense that the outlines of Lincoln's bust appear ghost-like on the reverse because the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving transfer marks embedded in steel that then repeatedly stamped those phantom images onto each coin afterward. And if the clash is unusual or combined with doubling, misalignment, or severe die polishing that removed some but not all of the accidental lines, it adds additional intrigue and value to the overall story. But imagine that the coin also contains a dramatic die crack stretching across the surface, a sign of deterioration that often results in raised jagged lines known as die breaks, or even a full-on cud where a chunk of the die has completely broken off, leaving a massive blob of metal raised on the coin's surface. Errors like these can be extremely valuable when they are large and visually striking. And combining such a major cud with an extreme double die and heavy clash marks would already create a triple-layered rarity that collectors would fight over. Yet that still doesn't explain why this specific 1984 cent could reach $13 million unless even more unusual factors were at play. So there must have been additional complications during its minting, including planchet errors, such as a wrong metal strike, where the coin was inadvertently minted on a planchet intended for a foreign coin or a different denomination altogether. And although U.S. mints have strict separation procedures, occasional mismatches have happened historically. So, if a 1984 cent was mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet from pre-1982 stock, or on a copper-nickel blank borrowed for a different denomination, or on a thin or thick planchet with incorrect weight and incorrect alloy composition, the resulting coin instantly becomes an ultra-rare anomaly. And if all of this happened in the same coin, the doubled die, the die clash, the enormous cut, the wrong metal strike, then the rarity multiplies by a factor that nearly defies calculation. But our story continues deeper still, because collectors and researchers speculate that the $13 million 1984 cent might have possessed a combination involving both striking misalignment and rotational misalignment, meaning the obverse and reverse dies were not perfectly aligned. So when the coin was struck, the reverse image appears rotated dramatically from the obverse, possibly even 90 degrees or more, creating an uncanny rotated die error that collectors adore due to its rarity and visual impact. And if the rotation is paired with a misaligned die strike where the obverse or reverse is shifted off-center, leaving a thick border of unstruck metal on one side and a thinner rim or partial cut on the other, the coin becomes even more fascinating and visually memorable, making its error story even more compelling. And imagine further that the coin suffered from a striking pressure anomaly, where the pressure of the strike was uneven or insufficient in certain areas, causing weak spots or ghost impressions, or the opposite where the pressure was too strong in particular zones, causing metal flow distortions or elongated lettering. And collectors would be astonished to see such weird irregularities layered onto an already chaotic masterpiece of minting flaws. And perhaps the coin also survived post-strike damage inside mint machinery. Not the kind of damage that collectors dismiss as worthless, but rare mechanical interference such as being partially struck again, resulting in a dramatic double strike, or even triple strike error where the coin rotated or shifted between strikes, creating overlapping impressions that look surreal and dramatically distorted. The next 1993 1-cent USA coin today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins. A journey into the heart of numismatic mystery and fascination as we explore how a seemingly ordinary 1993 1-cent, a coin most people pass by without a second glance, is rumored in collecting circles to have reached an astonishing value of $13 million. Not because of gold or silver, not because of special commemorative minting, but because of the incredible combination of mint errors, production mistakes, metal anomalies, striking irregularities, and mysterious circumstances that surround this particular coin, drawing in collectors, researchers, historians, and treasure hunters from every corner of the hobby, all captivated by the idea that a piece of pocket change from 1993 could hide a fortune worthy of legends. And as we journey through its story, we uncover not only what makes this coin so impossibly valuable, but also the various theoretical scenarios, production glitches, quality control lapses, transitional metal patterns, and accident-based possibilities that might have created such an extraordinary specimen, pushing its worth far beyond normal boundaries and turning it into one of the most talked-about numismatic mysteries of modern times. And as we go deeper, we realize that a coin like this doesn't simply become valuable by chance, but requires a combination of extremely rare factors aligning in a way that seems almost too improbable to believe. Yet the very impossibility is what makes collectors chase it with unwavering enthusiasm, wondering how a mishap during an ordinary minting year could evolve into a multi-million-dollar anomaly. So to begin unraveling this strange tale, we picture the United States Mint in 1993, a year of high-volume coin production, massive output, and the widespread use of copper-plated zinc planchets, a period during which quality control was generally strong but not infallible, and within that environment, a single planchet could end up misfed, mispunched, or misplaced, slipping past inspection with microscopic imperfections that snowball into major mint errors once the coin is struck, creating the foundation of what collectors call a perfect storm of numismatic value. And it is within this context that the legendary 1993 1-cent worth $13 million supposedly emerged, perhaps beginning its journey as a planchet never intended for the Lincoln cent at all, possibly struck on a leftover bronze planchet from a previous era, or even on a foreign planchet mistakenly inserted into the presses, as foreign planchet errors are notoriously valuable, especially when involving nations that used similar dimensions. And if a 1993 cent were struck on a completely unintended metal, it could alter not only its weight and appearance, but also its long-term chemical aging, tone, patina, and visual texture, giving the coin a distinctive look immediately recognizable. To experts and extraordinarily prized by collectors who track such anomalies across decades. And building on this, one can imagine the coin displaying an unmistakably off-color surface, perhaps a deeper bronze or brighter copper tone inconsistent with 1993's typical zinc-based composition, signaling that something significant occurred during production. But a metal error alone would not propel value to $13 million, so the coin would need additional layers of mistakes, perhaps. Beginning with a dramatic double-die obverse error in which the portrait of Lincoln shows noticeable doubling across the profile, eye, ear, or lettering, causing the date to appear shadowed or duplicated. And collectors know that strong, dramatic doubling is among the highest value errors, especially when clearly visible without magnification. So a bold double date on a rare metal variation could exponentially increase value. But imagine adding to this a misaligned die strike that shifts the design slightly off-center so that parts of the rim appear thicker on one side and thinner on the other, creating a visually striking error that reinforces the idea that something was profoundly unusual during the coin strike. And if that alone isn't enough, picture the possibility of a rotated die error where the reverse design is turned many degrees out of alignment with the obverse, a phenomenon that collectors cherish because it is so easy to detect, yet so rare to find in high-grade condition. And then consider a clash die imprint where the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving the subtle ghost-like outlines of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa. And such a combination of errors is nearly unheard of in modern coinage. particularly from the 1990s when mint quality was fairly consistent, which is exactly why such a coin becomes the subject of myth and legend. And so the narrative continues as collectors theorize about the steps that might have led to its creation, maybe beginning with a malfunctioning feeder mechanism causing a foreign planchet to slip into the struck inventory while the dies were misaligned due to vibration or improper installation, and perhaps the die pairs were nearing the end of their usable life, generating die cracks or cuds on the surface of the coin, which collectors adore because die cracks, especially large, sprawling ones, add distinct uniqueness to every individual piece, almost like a fingerprint. That sets the coin apart forever. And if this particular 1993 cent were to display a massive die crack stretching across Lincoln's head, or perhaps a dramatic retained cud that leaves an uneven chunk along the rim, collectors would lose their minds with excitement, not only because such features amplify rarity, but because they render the coin undeniably one of a kind. And when one considers all these possibilities culminating in a single specimen, one begins to understand how mythical value could emerge, especially if the coin survives in unexpectedly high grade, perhaps uncirculated or near flawless despite all the chaos that occurred during its striking, because condition is everything in numismatics, and errors in high grade are exponentially more valuable than those worn down through circulation. And now imagine the coin being discovered decades later, tucked away unknowingly in a personal hoard, a jar of old cents saved without intention, or perhaps in an estate sale where a buyer, unaware of the treasure inside, happens to spot unusual details upon closer inspection, realizing the coin is nothing like the others and beginning a journey through graded authentication, expert verification, metallurgical analysis, and historical investigation. And once such a coin enters the spotlight, auction houses compete fiercely to obtain the rights to sell it, marketing it as one of the greatest mint-era discoveries of the modern era, and bidding wars escalate astronomically, pushing the theoretical value into the realm of millions. But for this coin, the narrative suggests it pushes beyond even that into the unbelievable figure of $13 million, a price that seems outrageous, yet illustrates the feverish enthusiasm of collectors who would pay unthinkable amounts for a coin that exists in a category all its own. And the story grows as further possibilities emerge, such as the idea that the coin might display a transitional error involving leftover dies from a previous year, or perhaps an early experimental die polished improperly, leaving dramatic polishing lines or missing design elements that transform the visual character of the coin entirely. For example, missing initials, missing parts of the memorial design on the reverse, weakened or disappeared segments of lettering, or even a mule error scenario where the obverse design of a 1993 cent is paired with the reverse die intended for a completely different denomination, an event so rare that mule coins are among the most valuable U.S. coins ever known. And if such an impossible combination had occurred in 1993 and escaped the mint, slipping into circulation unnoticed, its rarity would be nearly incalculable, pushing the coin's value far beyond conventional logic, and collectors would speculate endlessly about the internal circumstances that could have produced it. The last 2014 D1 cent USA coin today, as we dive into one of the most surprising, fascinating, and unbelievable stories in the world of modern coin collecting. A story that begins with a simple 2014 D1 cent coin, but quickly transforms into a whirlwind of mystery, rarity, speculation, and numismatic excitement as collectors around the world try to understand how an ordinary penny minted in Denver could possibly end up being valued at an astonishing $13 million, a number so outrageous that it immediately grabs attention, but becomes all the more intriguing once we explore the strange errors, bizarre mistakes, unexplained anomalies, minting oddities, production glitches, unnoticed die issues, and the many hypothetical possibilities that fuel the belief that this specific coin could be hiding something truly extraordinary beneath its small copper-plated zinc surface. Because while millions of 2014 D cents rolled off the Denver mint presses without incident, the mythical $13 million example is said to possess a combination of traits so unusual, so unlikely, and so far outside normal mint tolerance that it captures the imagination of every collector who has ever dared to dream of discovering that one-in-a-billion treasure hiding among everyday pocket change. And as we explore this story, you will see why so many enthusiasts become convinced that certain improbable scenarios, rare mint errors, and mysterious production oversights could combine to create a piece with unbelievable market potential. especially when we consider the intense collector demand for dramatic mint errors such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, transitional planchet mistakes, mule pairings, dramatic die breaks, wrong metal compositions, experimental strikes, misaligned dies, unintentional overstrikes, multi-strike anomalies, and coins that somehow escaped quality control scrutiny despite possessing features that should have been caught and destroyed. And because the 2014 Descent is part of the Shield Reverse series first introduced in 2010, any significant deviation from the expected design, metal composition, or strike quality can become incredibly eye-catching to specialists who study the series closely, making even small variants a point of fascination. Yet the mysterious $13 million piece is believed to display far more than small variants, instead exhibiting an extraordinary blend of traits that individually would already be valuable, but together create a once-in-a-generation numismatic anomaly. And some collectors speculate that the coin might have been struck on a leftover pre-1982 bronze planchet, which would be rare but not unprecedented. However, the $13 million legend goes further, suggesting not only a wrong planchet strike, but possibly a double denomination error in which a cent design was accidentally pressed onto a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely, creating an object so unusual that even veteran graders would be stunned, and others imagine a situation where a 2014 Descent was struck using mismatched dies, perhaps combining the obverse of the 2014 design with an accidental reverse die from an earlier Shield Reverse prototype, or even an unexpected wheat reverse die mistakenly pulled from archival storage, producing what collectors call a mule error, which is one of the rarest and most sought-after types of mistakes in all of U.S. coinage, and mule coins have indeed sold for tremendous amounts at auction because of their impossibility under normal minting procedures, fostering speculation that if a 2014 Descent mule existed, it could absolutely justify a sky-high valuation. Yet the story does not end there, because some enthusiasts believe the coin may show signs of multiple strikes, perhaps being struck twice or even 3 times with slight rotation between each strike, creating overlapping design impressions that would be instantly recognizable as dramatic and unmistakably authentic mint errors, the kind of visual oddity that collectors dream of, while others propose that the coin could have been part of an experiment testing alternate metal compositions or strike pressures, possibly resulting in a piece with unusual weight, magnetic properties, or color, making it unlike any other 2014 Descent known to exist. And theories also swirl around the possibility of die cap errors, brockage impressions, reverse brockages, or even fragment strikes in which an incomplete or irregularly shaped planchet passed through the press, creating jagged edges, distorted design features, and unusual thickness variations that would make the coin extraordinarily unique. And there are also believers who insist that the mythical $13 million coin exhibits a dramatic retained cud covering much of the rim, creating a massive raised area where the die cracked and a portion broke away, causing metal to flow into the gap and form a distinctive mound that would immediately identify the coin as a catastrophic die failure survivor. And if such a cud were combined with other errors like doubling, multiple strikes, or a wrong planchet, the coin could become a masterpiece of minting chaos, a perfect storm of conditions so rare they might only occur once in decades. And with only rumors and scarce descriptions circulating among collectors, the legend continues to grow, fueling the belief that the coin's extraordinary value comes from a combination of factors including its rarity, its mysterious origin, its alleged visual drama, and the overwhelming allure of believing that even a modern penny could become a multi-million-dollar treasure. And although no official record confirms the coin's existence, many collectors insist the possibility remains open because the U.S. Mint produces billions of coins every year under high-speed conditions in which mistakes can absolutely slip through, especially when machinery experiences unexpected misalignment, die fatigue, improper planchet sorting, or human oversight, all of which have historically created some of the most valuable mint errors ever discovered. And the idea that the 2014 Descent might join that legendary list continues to inspire treasure hunters who search rolls, examine change jars, and study every detail under magnification, hoping to uncover the next great error. And as we dive deeper into the story, we consider the enormous effect of collector psychology, because when a coin becomes wrapped in legend, speculation, and mystery, its perceived value can skyrocket simply because collectors fear missing out on owning a piece of history. And this emotional element often plays a major role in the market, pushing hypothetical values to astonishing heights, especially when the coin in question belongs to a widely collected series like the Lincoln set, which has fans all over the world who meticulously study every mint mark, every die crack, every surface anomaly, and every tiny deviation from the standard design, making the field highly competitive and making any major error discovery a headline-worthy event that instantly gains widespread attention. And the 2014 DCEN also benefits from being part of an era in which the mint transitioned to different planchet suppliers and production methods, creating plenty of opportunities for unexpected mistakes. And while billions of flawless cents were produced, the possibility remains that a single piece emerged with a combination of errors so extreme and so visually impressive that it takes on near-mythical status, encouraging collectors to imagine scenarios in which the coin displays a dramatic rotated die alignment of perhaps 45 or even 90 degrees, creating an appearance where the obverse and reverse do not line up normally, a mistake that has fascinated experts for generations. Or perhaps the coin shows signs of an improperly annealed planchet, giving it an unusual dark color that stands out instantly from other 2014 descents. Or maybe the coin was struck with a severely clogged die, producing missing features, streaks, indistinct details, and patches where the design fades into smooth surfaces, all of which collectors find extremely desirable when the error is dramatic enough. And some even suggest the possibility of a split planchet error in which the metal separates during or after striking, creating a thin, fragile coin with a layered appearance that numismatists consider rare and collectible.